I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. In October of 1985, a woman named Cherie Warren left work at a busy Salt Lake City office
to meet her estranged husband at a downtown auto dealership.
She never made it home. Cherie's car surfaced weeks later in Las Vegas.
In the parking lot of a hotel casino.
No one knows how it got there.
Strange. It was strange.
Both Cherie's estranged husband and her boyfriend raised suspicion for investigators.
I kind of thought that he might have done something.
But no arrests were ever made. In Cold Season 3, we dig into double lives, make new connections in the case, and examine the difficulty raised by reasonable doubt.
We want answers just as much as anyone else.
They have creeps like that now too, so nothing's changed.
That's the new Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, now available anywhere you get your podcasts.
In today's episode of Project Recovery,
it was just like, what do I have to stay sober for? Everything's already been taken away. Like, I just lost, like, my girl. I just lost my little boy. My family I just had for the last 2 years. Now it's, like, all gone, like everything I've been working for. Yeah, I'm going to go get high.
Make sure you listen to the end. Find us on Facebook at Project Recovery. We'll have that and much more coming up. Hey, welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction, but more importantly, it's about recovery, and it's brought to you by our friends at knowyourscript.org. Without them, we couldn't do this podcast. If you're wondering where we are in the opioid epidemic currently right now, they've got some great information there, how to talk to yourself, talk to your doctor, talk to your loved ones, talk to family. It's just chock full of good information, and we love them at knowyourscript.org. Dr. Matt, fresh off a vacation.
Right?
Where did you go?
So I went up to McCall, Idaho, had a great time. I actually got to, I got up there and realized I had to teach a lecture the next day. So that's one of my favorite things about the era of Zoom.
Oh.
I was able to sit out on the patio in McCall, Idaho.
Did you have pants on or pants off?
Pants on, very professional.
Of course.
But big pine trees in the background. It was wonderful. So, yeah, great place to relax.
And just go there and recharge the batteries.
Yeah, we, floated on the lake. I got to do meditation out. So the house we rented was on a pond, which is just very close to Lake Payette. Mm-hmm. And every morning I could go out on the boat and meditate on the water, and then we went out to the lake and ate good food and had good friends there. It was a lot of fun.
I want to ask you a little bit about meditation because I've had quite a few people reach out to me on Facebook and Instagram wanting to know more about meditation. I actually had a good conversation this morning at the gym with a guy who wanted to know more about meditation and breathing. But you probably do it a lot more than I do. Unfortunately, I use meditation like a fire extinguisher. In case of emergency,
it could be used that way.
Meditate.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And when I find myself having panic attacks late at night or in a situation that I can't get out, I kind of just turn everything off, sit there, breathe, and just kind of, I think of my problems, and I actually learned this in rehab, as clouds and, floating by in my head. And so the cloud will stop. I'll give it its, attention that's needed, and then I let it float by. In my addiction, that dark cloud would hang over my head and follow me everywhere I go.
Right.
Now I acknowledge it, I give it its importance, and if there's something I can do to help fix that or change that, then I can do that. If not, then I just let it float by. And so that's how I use meditation.
Yeah,
in my
decatastrophizing.
Yes, but you use it daily.
I do. Yeah, you bet. Meditation can be used like a treatment, and that's what you're describing. So you're having stress, you're having anxiety, learning how to, regulate your breathing, calm your mind, focus. It's a wonderful way to handle those sorts of things. It can also be used preventatively as a preventive measure. So somebody like myself who does transcendental meditation, the goal is twice a day for 20 minutes at a time. And so I try to get up and do that in the morning and then do that in the evening. And that keeps your mind focused, calm, and restorative. And what I really like about that is the research backs it up. So there are quite a few neuropsych research articles that indicate that after about 8 to 10 weeks of daily transcendental meditation, you can actually measure prefrontal cortex density increasing with an MRI. So they've done studies, and all that really means is that those frontal lobes, the most human part of our brain, judgment, focus, reason, concentration, all of that, is getting denser, myelinating, making connections. So it's like a workout for your brain. So
the gym.
Yeah, and a lot of people, in fact, a lot of celebrities like Jerry Seinfeld or Ellen DeGeneres feel like a lot of their ability to focus, concentrate, work hard, and be successful comes from their daily meditations. And I've noticed if I slack and get out of the habit, I feel the difference.
I mean, I feel the difference if I go a day without going to the gym. Right. I think the body knows. It's funny, when I was in my active addiction, I used to say routines. I hate routines. Yeah. I'm a fly by the seat of pants kind of guy. You know what I mean? I'm going to ride the wave wherever it takes me. I'm going to rock and roll. Let's do this.
Right.
Turns out I love a routine.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of a routine, man.
Especially as we get older, having a routine actually helps calm your anxiety, because anxiety is a focus on future events that we perceive little control over.
Yeah.
Or like you say, future tripping. So if you have a routine, you don't know exactly how your future is going to be, but you can predict it pretty closely. Like if you're like, I know what my day is going to be like. There may be some surprises that pop up, but for the most part, your anxiety and worry will stay at bay because you're not future tripping.
And if you've ever wanted to take a guided meditation, you can go back through the feed on the Project Recovery podcast page. We've got actually guided meditations given to you by our own Dr. Matt Woolley. I think we've got 3 there. We should probably do some more coming up because I think people do like them. And it's a great way to introduce somebody into meditation. There's all kinds of great apps out there. I know there's Calm and Headspace.
Those are my 2 favorite, mostly because they have some research to back them up that they're quality.
And the cool thing is, because I've spent some time on Calm, is that you can go in there and go, I need a meditation for sleep, and they've got a bunch of sleep meditations. I need some for clarity, and they've got them there. Energy, whatever you want. They've got different subcategories that you can go and kind of fill your need, and it's just a great way to see what it's all about.
Guided meditation is a really good place to start. If you're thinking, do I want to try to meditate? Find a guided meditation, and all you really need to do is listen and follow the voice. And then eventually you can do your own meditations.
There was a mean girl in 7th grade who used to do this to me all the time. Meditate on this.
Really?
Yeah.
Flip you the bird?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I wish she was way ahead of her time.
O-Town.
Yeah, biggity, biggity, O. While you were up on the lake in Idaho recharging your batteries and meditating with the family,
yeah,
I was DJing a 51st class reunion.
51st class reunion.
Well, they were supposed to be their 50th. That was going to be their big one.
Oh, okay.
But COVID.
Well, I had the 31st this year, so I get that.
So I'm at the 51st class reunion for the Ogden High Tigers. Ogden High School football rules, by the way.
Well, that's what I hear, yeah.
And this guy came up to me, and he goes, I just want to tell you how good you were doing. And I go, well, thank you. And I was like, so do you listen to the podcast? He goes, no. I was here 10 years ago, and you were a wreck.
Oh, seriously?
I did DJ the reunion 10 years ago.
That's awesome.
And he goes, you were a wreck. He said, I was hoping, I've been following your story on Facebook, and I was hoping that you would be here.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you that this has been a lot of fun, and I think you're doing amazing.
That is cool. What a cool, like, before and after snapshot by somebody you didn't even know.
Yeah, so he said, 10, and I...
He meant you were a wreck because you were drinking.
Oh, I was drunk. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, that was not good because DJ jobs normally happen at the end of the day. Oh, and I usually started drinking at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
And so it was a long day.
Yeah.
And, I've ruined many events.
How did that make you feel when he came up to you?
Made me feel good.
Yeah.
Until 3 ladies came up to me afterwards and goes, I don't remember going to school with you. And I was like, because I wasn't even born yet. Put your glasses on, lady. What do you mean? This is blonde. This isn't gray. You know how I know it's blonde? Because I bleach it.
That's humbling.
Yeah, but I swear, 100% true. 3 people come up and was like, now, did I go to class with you? And I was like, no, lady.
How old do you think you are, lady?
I wasn't even, you graduated in 1970. I was born in 1974.
That's hilarious. That's funny.
Yeah, but it was a good time. And, it's constant reminders like that throughout my week. And I get 3 or 4 of them where people will say things like that. And then I'll get 3 or 4 reminders a week of my past, whether it's Facebook or somebody going, hey, I remember, telling the story. And sometimes I think they're trying to help.
Are they trying? I was wondering, are they trying to, because what a lot of people listening to this show may not know is, you don't always get love on social media.
No.
That's usually what we talk about.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if you're sort of a public figure and if you've had an incident like you've had that was public, There's a lot of, what do we call them, haters out there? People that love to
not fans of Casey's,
put
what
you
I call
down.
them.
Yeah, no, that's a good, nice description of them.
Not fans of Casey.
Not fans of Casey. And so people may not realize that you end up reading those things as well.
And it's okay because they deserve their opinion. And I would love a chance to change their mind, but I can't spend all my time in that area. When I celebrated my 3-year anniversary, I put a before and after photo there, and it was awesome. And in that, I said, I want to thank everybody who supported me. I also want to thank everybody who doubted me, because they were just as important in my recovery as those who supported me.
How so?
Because it gave me fuel and it gave me fire. I'm not going to tell. I'm competitive. You know what I mean? And I've got that in me. And the best thing you can do to me is tell me you can't do this. Because the thing inside me goes, watch. It used to be hold my beer and I'll show you that I can do this.
Yeah.
Now it's just watch.
Yeah.
Doubt me. I dare you.
Yeah.
Because I will do it.
Well, I think that's a healthy outlet for competition, you know, when you realize somebody's doubting that you can make positive changes. If that fuels you a little bit, I think that's great.
You know, I can tell you that I have won some of the haters over in the 3 years.
Have you?
The first year, people are like, I don't think this is going to last. Let's see.
Right.
You know, and then you get to the second year, and people
there
are
have
like,
been a lot of people I shouldn't say a lot. There have been several media folks that have really struggled in their first year of trying to be sober. So I know that.
Yeah, but it's not just media folks. It's also, it's pretty common in recovery.
Oh, no, I mean, it is. But you were kind of doing your thing at the same time. A few other people had lost their jobs and they were doing their thing. And I think a lot of people doubted that you could do it.
But people have now, after 3 years, going, okay, man, I think you might be onto something. Yeah. I think this might be, as they say in the recovery world, authentic.
Yeah.
Maybe he's doing this for the right reasons. I'm here to tell you I am. I'm 100% doing them for the right reasons. And the right reason isn't to get my job back on TV. The right reason isn't for accolades from the general public. The right reason is because I'm a better person this way. Yeah. I'm a better father this way. I'm a better ex-husband this way. I'm a better boyfriend this way. I'm all around better this way. And those are the reasons why I'm doing it. It's not, all that other stuff is great and I love it and it does mean the world to me, but that's not
you've had a lot of great opportunities come your way as people have started to trust that you really are.
Guess who's the new on-field game guy for Weber State Wildcats?
What?
Yeah.
Weber State, great.
Yeah, Waldo the Wildcat, man. I grew up there skating at that place.
So you're going to wear the costume?
No. But like in between timeouts.
Oh, in between
timeouts, I come out and be like, who wants a T-shirt?
See you in the costume. That would be amazing.
The Ogden High Tiger mascot.
Shut up.
I was.
You were?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It was so much fun putting that thing on because you could do anything.
I bet you could. So you're going to be on field doing commentary.
Well, no, just running the games in between timeouts, shooting out T-shirts, thanking sponsors, and whatever they want me to do. But it was honored for them to call me up and go, hey.
Definitely.
Yeah, do you want to do this? I was like, yes, I would love to do it.
Well, that absolutely shows that they trust you.
Yeah.
They trust that you're on the right path for the right reasons.
Yeah, so everything's going great, and I'm excited to do this. I love doing this every week with you. I love the fact that Joshy's better back there in the quiet, but he just held up the horns.
Yeah, he's rocking out.
We're rocking out, and this podcast is going to be a great one. We've got Cameron, right? We got him as our guest today. He's going to come up and talk about his recovery, what it looks like now, and where he found help, where he didn't think he'd get it. You're listening to Project Recovery right here on KSL.
2 years ago, Americans watched in horror as a crisis unfolded at the Kabul airport.
She was tear-gassed and beaten.
Images of thousands desperate to escape Taliban oppression filled our news feeds. More than 80,000 Afghans made it to America. But the story didn't end there.
It was very cold. There was no power, no heat.
Who would help our newest neighbors? I'm Andrea Smartin. In Stranger Becomes Neighbor, you'll hear the stories of some remarkable refugees who left their homes and their dreams behind, only to start over from zero.
Their only possession was 3 blankets.
And you'll meet Americans who stepped up to help them.
You want me to come when you deliver your baby.
What can one person do in the face of an international disaster decades in the making? That's Stranger Becomes Neighbor. Find us at kslpodcast.com, follow us on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Project Recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. He's a clinical psychologist. And our guest today, Cameron Marshall. And Cameron, how's it going, brother?
It's going good, man. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So this has been in the works for a couple of months. What are you doing right now for employment?
For employment right now, I'm doing installations for fans in houses now. It's just kind of something that I'm doing to get by. I kind of want to start my own thing, but, just doing that for now.
Currently, how much sober time do you have underneath your belt?
I have 13 and a half months right now.
And that half month is important, huh?
Yes.
It's like when you're a little kid and you ask them how tall they are and they go, I'm 5'3.5".
Yeah.
That half's really important because,
it is.
I mean, it's the small victories, right?
Right. And any day it could be different. It could start over.
It's so important, and that's so true because you never know what the day's going to bring you.
Right.
So let's get to your story. Where does young Cameron grow up?
I was born and raised in Payson down in Utah County, and that's where I lived most of my life. I spread around a lot. Like, my family moved around a lot. I lived in Mississippi, lived in Oregon when I was younger, so it was just kind of like scattered around.
Why did you move so much?
So when I was living with my mom, she was a single mom, raising four of us. And even though with my dad's help, like, they were split up, they split up when I was young. So it was my mom just like working her butt off, so she always rented houses. And it was like every year after that lease went up, we just moved somewhere else, I went to every elementary school in my hometown. So it was just kind of crazy, like, moving around that much, Now,
you said there's 4 siblings. Where do you rank in the order?
So I have 5 siblings, actually. So I have 2 older brothers and 3 little sisters. So I'm kind of like right in the middle.
Middle child.
Yep.
There's something to that.
And so when do you remember the first time you tried a substance?
Yes, I do. I was 12, actually, and I always hung out with my older brother's friends, and they always kind of got into stupid stuff. So I was hanging out with them one day. We were smoking weed, and then a buddy of mine pulled out some meth. And I didn't really even know or understand what it was at the time, So
how long had you been smoking weed? So you were 12. You said that sort of like, Of course we were smoking weed.
Yeah, it was like 2
matter
weeks.
of fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that what all 12-year-olds are doing?
Like at the time, like in my hometown, like that's how it was, like it's such a small, secluded place. Like, it's grown now, but it was either a lot of religion or a lot of drug use. That was like the only 2 spectrums.
Well, from one small town guy to another, there's sometimes not a whole lot to keep you busy when you're a kid.
Definitely.
And so you get into mischief and so, small towns are often a place. I think people who grow up in the big city are surprised that small towns are often a place where a lot of drugs and partying happen.
Right. And so it's like, I was hanging out with the wrong people, and it got me in a bad situation. And so I did it then, I didn't really understand or know like what it was, but just like that feeling. Was
that new to everybody in the group smoking meth, or was it just new for you?
So it was my older brother's friend and then me, and so he got me to try it.
Oh, okay.
And he had already been doing it. I don't know how long, but he was 16, so like they were in that age group where
older,
all the parties they go to. All the parties
he brings
you go
up an interesting point, though. I think a lot of times when you've got young people who try drugs for the first time, I know there's not a contract, but there's kind of an implied contract when you're doing drugs. You know what I mean? That they don't know what they're signing up for. As, Cameron was just saying, that he was like, I didn't know what meth was. You know what I mean? It wasn't very educated on what it was, and had somebody goes, hey, listen, we're going to give you this drug. But chances are, about a 90% chance, it's going to ruin your life. Do you still want to do this?
Yeah, nobody presents it that way.
No, they don't. They go like, this is amazing.
Right.
You got to give this a shot. But nobody really knows the contract when you try it for the first time.
Nobody reads that small print.
No, you're right.
No. And, at the time, it was like, in my head, it was my older brother's friend. Like, I thought he was like protective of me, So I was like,
there's
he's
trust.
Not gonna, he's not going to give me
trust.
something that's going to mess with me. So of course I'm going to try it. And
so
then,
you tried meth for the first time at age 12.
Yeah.
And what was the feelings it gave you?
It was insane. It was a rush. Had so much energy. It was just like always wanted to do stuff. And that's like that first time just got me hooked.
So you felt like you were hooked after the first time?
Oh, yeah. Like, I knew something, even how young I was, like, I could just feel something different in my mind, you know, in my brain. And I was like, I kind of like this. Like, this is all new. Like, it's exciting, especially you're young. Like, the small town thing, it was like, this is such a rush. Like, this makes everything so much better. Makes all the dull stuff amazing.
You know, Dr. Matt's probably going to ask you about your childhood, and were you carrying any baggage into
definitely,
age 12?
Definitely. So like I said before, my mom, you know, she was a single mom and she raised us by herself, and she's got her own addictions. She has been an alcoholic for a long time. It's demons she's fighting right now, trying to get sober, and I think she's almost a year right now, so I'm proud of her for that. But that, just like growing up with an alcoholic mom, like my older brothers lived with my dad, so it was me, like, at home with my little sisters, you know. And so,
do you feel a lot of responsibility for the little sisters?
Yeah, like I was the man of the house. Like, my mom worked at a bar when I was young, so it was like my mom worked really late hours, so it was like I'd get home from school, take care of my little sisters, and that was like my life. And
making dinner and all
like,
that stuff.
I feel like my childhood was like taken from me, you know, and so like I held a lot of resentment for that. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time to like let go of that resentment, but how far I've come with like just being there for her now and like accepting it. And like, it wasn't her fault. Like, she busted her butt for us and did everything for us, but that put a lot of stress on me and a lot of weight on me. So
that's a healthy perspective to have now as an adult, right?
Right.
It helps you, you know, repair your relationship with your mom. But when you're a kid and you're 12 and you just want to go out and have fun, but you know you've got to take care of the little sisters at home, and mom's not going to be home till real late. I mean, how did you feel at that time?
You know, like, it was like angering, because it was like, you know, I wanted to go hang out with my friends. I wanted to do stuff, and I didn't realize it at the time, like, all the demons my mom was dealing with, you know. Like, I didn't see it from that perspective, so I was just like, you're putting all this on me, you know?
Right.
I'm only 12. I should be out hanging out with my friends right now, 13, like, living. And it's like, you know, I had to take on that responsibility, because it was like, okay, who's going to take care of my little sisters?
I think this just puts an exclamation point on the fact that addiction is a family disease. And, you know, a lot of times it's passed down generation to generation. So at 12, you're running around on meth in a small town in Utah.
Yep.
Do you find yourself getting in trouble? How does a 12-year-old get meth?
Like I said, like, I was always hanging out with older people, so they always knew where to get it, you know. It was kind of like the old thing back in the day where you had your brother's friends buy your beer for you or whatever, you know. And so definitely I got into a lot of trouble. Like, I was getting in a lot of fights at school. I was just like always pissed off, always wanted to fight, and didn't really like understand it, you know, like didn't have that perspective back then of like, that's what was going on with my home life. That's why I was doing all this stuff.
Yeah, you don't, I mean, the default emotion for most little boys is anger, right? When things aren't going well, boys get angry and act out. And it's almost always the case that when a guy that age, you know, 11, 12, 13, if you're fighting a lot, we kind of have to look at the home life and see what's going on. Usually there's a lot of pressure.
Right.
And it sounds like you were carrying around a lot of pressure and responsibility that you didn't understand and you weren't ready for.
No, I definitely wasn't. And it was, you know, my brother had got to the point with it. That's why he moved in with my dad too, you know, because he was like, I can't do this with our mom anymore. Like, she gets drunk, she gets crazy, she gets violent. And it was like, that was my defense mechanism, you know, was like my anger. It was like, when she was like that, I felt like I had to protect my little sisters.
Okay.
Because like when my mom got drunk, it was me she came after every time, not like my little sisters, you know.
And you thought if you weren't there,
then it would be a lot different situation. You know, like I knew it wasn't a safe environment for my little sisters.
That's a lot of responsibility for a young man.
Definitely.
So how does high school go for you?
High school, when I was 15 is when my mom like finally was like, I can't do this anymore with you. Like, you're always getting into trouble. Like, you're always fighting. You're always getting suspended. You're getting caught with drugs. I'm finding drugs in your room. And so she was like, you're moving in with your dad. Like, I can't handle it anymore. And I was like, all right. And I think at the time, like, I was almost hoping for that, because it was to a point where like my little sisters were older and my little sister could take care of my twin youngest sisters. And so it was like, that was my ticket out. It was like, I can't do this anymore. This is too much for someone my age, you know? And like, I had that realization then, and I was like, okay, like, send it. I'll go to dad's. I'm out of here. And as soon as I moved in with my dad, like everything changed for a couple years. And it was like,
change for the good or change for the bad?
Change for the good. It was like a routine, like you were talking about earlier, just having that routine of like my dad was stable about it. He was like, you're going to have a routine. You're going to do this. You're going to go to school. You're going to do all your stuff. And that's it.
And did you fall into line or did you?
I did.
Yep.
And it was just that structure that helped so much, and just like having a parent instead of being the parent was like it was different.
Well, that's even though kids may rebel against it a little bit, that's what kids want and need. They want somebody to be in charge. Until they're old enough, until you're a young adult, you can do it yourself. But it feels comforting to have somebody tell you to do your homework and go to bed and take a shower and
tell you it's okay instead of you having to tell somebody it's okay.
Yeah. The term for that is adultified or parentified, when a child who isn't ready for that responsibility gets given that responsibility. And it does, like you said, it robs you of that normal childhood development time, the innocence and the ability to just kind of be in your own world and be creative instead of having to take responsibility for others. Eventually, it's good for us to learn how to do that, obviously. But one of the things that'll often happen is when a person loses some or all of that childhood time, then as an adult they regress to an adolescent or childhood-like state and start to act and behave in really immature ways. And you're looking at somebody who's 30 and you're like, yeah, this guy acts like he's 12 or 14.
That's exactly what happened with me.
That happened to you?
Yeah. I lived my teenage years in my 20s.
Yeah.
I did all my partying in my 20s.
While you were in high school and you moved in with your dad, did you give up the drugs while you were living with your dad for those 2 good years you said?
So when I moved down there, like it got to a point where like, I was familiar with people down there.
Where's down there?
St. George, sorry.
St. George, okay.
So when I moved down there, I was cold turkey off everything, and I met some friends at school, and they just smoked weed. So like I started smoking weed down there, and it just like it turned into something to where it was just like me replacing that addiction. Like I was smoking weed like you shouldn't smoke weed. It was just like in excess like crazy, and I was like, all I'm doing is replacing something else for something else, a substance.
Which often is the case for any addict. I mean, I think Keaton, he was one of our first guests. He goes, I didn't discriminate against any drug. He goes, I had my preferences, but if I couldn't find that, I was taking whatever I could get.
Right.
And I was overindulging in that.
Yeah, and then you justify it to yourself. You're like, okay, it's not my DOC. Like, I'm doing good. Yeah. Like you justify it to yourself, and it's stupid because it's like,
Well, a lot of people do that with weed, I think. They'll say, well, it's not heroin or it's not meth.
Right.
Or it's not even alcohol. It's, people talk about weed nowadays like it's a vitamin.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Hey, we're going to hear what happened to Cameron after 2 years down in St. George. You're listening to Project Recovery right here on KSL. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. Our guest today is Cameron Marshall. He said he moved down to St. George, and for 2 years, I was doing pretty good, he said. What happened?
He created a situation where he got kicked out. I think that's
fabricated it,
Yeah, and then moved down with dad. And
would you say fabricated or manifested? Because I think a lot of times we do that.
Probably manifested.
Yeah.
I think just like my energy, putting it out to the world, like I wasn't even realizing that I was doing it, but I was just like running amok. And I didn't think about it. Like I didn't care about it. I didn't care like who I was hurting at the time. It was like,
but you were needing a more stable environment.
I needed an escape route.
That rebelliousness and behavior, anger, sort of led you to that or manifested that in your life.
Right.
And you said you liked the fact that your dad was more structured.
Oh yeah, and like it's just amazing. Like my dad has always been an amazing father. Like I can go to him and be like, Dad, I need to talk to you as a friend. Or Dad, I need to talk to you as dad. Mm-hmm. And like, it's no problem. And he's always been like that. And he's my number one supporter, and just, he knew I needed structure. Like he knew how much I was messing up and he knew how much I was struggling, and I knew I needed to get out of that. Like even at that age, I was like, I'm going to do some stupid stuff if I keep going down this road.
You could feel it coming, huh?
Yeah, I was just like, with how it's going already, like you just get that feeling in your gut,
Mm-hmm.
I think that was just my way of like manifesting it. It was just like, let's do everything we can to get out of here.
But you said when you got to St. George, you made new friends and fell into sort of another addictive process, and that was smoking a lot of marijuana.
Yeah. And so it was like, I'd smoke like I'd still go to school. I'd still get my schoolwork done, but it was like I was just replacing it. And every time I was hanging out with friends, all I was doing was smoking weed or going to concerts. And it was just like, it mellowed out and I stopped smoking weed. I ended up getting in a relationship, and a relationship I had for 6 years after that.
Oh, okay.
And I got clean. Like, I got clean for her. Like, she wanted me to stop smoking weed, so I did. And it lasted a long time. And all it took from being down there for 2 years was one trip up here to visit some family. And I ran into some friends at a party, and there was some heroin there, and ended up doing heroin.
Had you done heroin before that?
No, not till I was 16.
Okay. So you were, what age did you go to St. George? 14?
Yeah, 14, 15.
Yeah. And you were doing, despite smoking a lot of weed, you were going to school.
Yep.
Did you end up graduating from high school?
No, I actually didn't. And
Okay.
that's due to like a lot of my addiction stuff too. I only made it to 10th grade, man.
Made it to 10th grade, and that's I guess you're 16 in 10th grade. People are, right? So
Yeah.
that's when the heroin happened?
Yep.
Tell us more about that.
So I came up here for a trip back up to Utah County and ran to some friends, went to a party. There was heroin there. I did some heroin, and it was like the best feeling in the world.
You say it so matter of fact, because I think, I mean, even in the craziness that I put myself in, if I walked in and there was heroin, I'd be like, holy cow, there's heroin here.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I mean, my mind would be blown. I was like, I've heard about it, but what? But down in Utah County, pretty normal.
Yeah, it really is. Like, when I was growing up in that and like going to all these parties, it was like you didn't go to a party where somebody didn't have meth or heroin or weed or pills or anything like
Which
that.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
The least thing people were doing was drinking, you know, because everybody was too messed up on everything else to even drink. Like, people would buy all this alcohol for parties and then just get messed up on other stuff the whole time, you know?
So
It's just
growing up
crazy.
and hanging out with the older brothers and their friends, this just kind of seemed like what people do at parties. Huh?
Yeah. And so it was like, I didn't even think about it. It was just like instant reaction. It was like, yeah, like, give me some. So I started smoking heroin, and I was hiding it from my girlfriend at the time. And we ended up getting engaged, and I was just like playing a lie. Like, she had no idea I was using. And I would just come up here on the weekends, every weekend, and like stock up on heroin and then take it back down to St. George with me and live with her and her LDS family. And like, nobody had any idea. Like, I hid it so well, and it was like sickening how well I hid it.
How does somebody hide heroin? You know what I mean? I mean, that's the thing that I don't get. I mean, does it make you nod off? Does it?
Oh, yeah. Like, I honestly, to this day, I don't know how I got away with it for so long. I did it for 4 years.
Some of that might be, you know, you said LDS, which is
Naive.
you know, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and part of their religious practice is no drugs or alcohol at all, ever. And so if they were an active LDS family, maybe they didn't really know what they were seeing. They thought you were just a kind of a weird kid or something.
See, the crazy thing is that her dad was actually a police officer. Like, he used to be a police officer.
Okay.
And that's what like blew my
so
mind.
he should have known.
That's what blew my mind even more. And like, you know, I hate to say it, but it was like I was so good at it. And like, I look back on it now and I'm like, it kind of gives me the chills, you know, thinking how well I got away with it for so long. And we got to a point where we were 3 months away from getting married. And I sat her and her family down and I was like, look, I can't get married. And she was like, you know, you're cheating on me, aren't you? I was like, not with what you think not with what you think I'm cheating on you with. And I was like, I've been doing heroin for the last 4 years and just watched all their jaws hit the floor, you know?
4 years. So you were about 19, 20 at this time?
Yeah, I was 20. I was almost 21. And so I sat him down. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I need to go fix my stuff. Like, whatever I need to do.
Prior to that, I mean, heroin for 4 years, you don't usually hear of that without it causing some serious trouble in a person's life. Did you get into trouble during those 4 years?
I mean, how did you pay for it?
I was that functioning addict. Like, I had a $21 an hour job. I had a new truck that I bought that was paid off and everything. And I was literally that functioning addict. I don't know how I did it. And I was like working graveyard shifts. Like, that's just a concoction for failure right there.
Yeah.
Like, every addict knows that that's like horrible. And I did it for so long, and I don't know.
So what made you? So why give it up? Why did you?
Why come clean?
Yeah, tell them about it.
I think it was just all the guilt. You know what I mean? It was like, she was such an amazing woman, and like, I still have love for her to this day, you know. She was my first love, and it was like I just felt like that was the right thing to do. It was like, you've done nothing but like be there for me in our relationship. Like, I can't go through with this. I can't do this to you. Like, you deserve better than that. And if you want to still be there when I'm done fixing myself, or at least in the process, then awesome. But I don't blame you for not.
So is this the first time you decided to go to a treatment center?
Yes, it was. I called my mom and I was like, look, I need to go to rehab. I was like, I don't have the money for it. I was still on her insurance. And I was like, I'll go wherever you want me to go. I just can't go anywhere in Utah because I'll just have somebody come pick me up. And she was like, all right. And this was a Friday. On Saturday, she called me and she's like, you got a plane ticket tomorrow to go to Oklahoma to a treatment called Narcanon. And I was like, all right, I guess that's far enough, you know. That's pretty far across the country. I don't think anybody's going to come pick me up. So I was like, okay, I'll go. I drove up that night to my mom's house in Payson and parked my truck there. The next day I got on a plane and went to Oklahoma.
Yeah. And how long did you spend there?
It was a 6-month program. And it was intense in a lot of ways. It was Scientology based.
Oh.
And it's what based?
Scientology.
L. Ron Hubbard Scientology based program.
And it was interesting to say the least. All the programs they have a sauna program right when you get there. Your first 30 days is just detoxing.
So you get in the sauna and sweat it out?
Yeah, so you sit in the sauna for 5 hours a day. They pump you full of niacin and potassium and salt pills, sodium pills, and you sit in a box for 5 hours.
Wow.
You sweat everything out, man. Like, I sweated paint chips out of my pores. Like, I watched paint chips come out of my pores from all the niacin they pump you with. I watched a dude sweat a bullet out of his leg that was lodged in his leg.
What? No.
From a drug dealer.
Really?
Yeah, I swear on everything. It was the craziest thing ever.
Paint chips and bullets, huh?
You're like, it's the niacin is the niacin's supposed to pump everything out of you.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like they load you up with 5,000 milligrams of this stuff.
Wow.
So this doesn't sound healthy.
No, like, and that's what I was thinking this whole time. I was like, I guess I'll do it. Like, I guess they know what they're talking about. And like 20 days into it, I'm just like, dude, I don't think I can sweat anymore.
Yeah.
I've never sweat that much
trust
in my life.
thing again. We tend to trust, when we're younger, we tend to trust people that are older. And we, as adults, even tend to trust authority figures. And they were running the program, so you would have thought, well, they must know what they're doing. But yeah, I don't know, but that doesn't sound super healthy to me.
So did you do all 6 months?
Yeah, I did.
And do you felt like it helped you? I mean,
Yeah, I stayed clean for 2 years when I got back from that. And I don't know what it was, but...
What was harder to stay clear from, the drugs or saunas?
Probably saunas. I was like, I avoided that more like the plague than anything. It was like people like, you want to go to the pool and like sit in the sauna? I'm like, no, man, no. That's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah, no more hot days.
Stayed clean for 2 years.
Yeah. And I got in a relationship when I got back. The relationship I had before didn't end up working out. So I got out. I ended up getting with a girl, and she had a kid, the little boy, and he was 6 months old when we got together, and I just like fell in love with this little boy. And like being dad, I think, was what kept me sober, honestly. Was like feeling like I was taking care of something again, And so
you have a template for that in your childhood, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it did me a lot of good. Like, as much as that stuff scarred me, it also like made me mature really fast. So like the things I do now, especially like reflect on that.
Yeah.
So you met a new girl. She had a 6-month-old son. Stayed sober for 2 years.
Yep. And then it ended up not working out, and we split up. And it was kind of like, it was a messy breakup for sure. And she like stopped letting me see him. So I was like, that broke me. I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, that was like my thing for the last 2 years.
Safety net.
It was like taking care of him.
Had kind of an insta family, and then it was gone.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like I just needed that constant distraction. And it was like 2 weeks, I think, after we split up, I was using again, just like that.
What did you go back to using?
I went back to heroin just right away.
Okay.
That was like just first instinct.
Do you remember the conversation you had in your head before you decided to do that? Or do you think you decided to do it long before?
I think it was the conversation, honestly. It was just like, what do I have to stay sober for? Everything's already been taken away. Like, I just lost like my girl. I just lost my little boy. Like, my family I just had for the last 2 years. Now it's like all gone, like everything I've been working for. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go get high.
So you went and got high.
Yep.
How long did this run go for?
This one went for 3 years.
And throughout this, are you getting in trouble with the law? Or
I got arrested for my first time when I was 24. And I got busted for 6 counts of distribution, 6 counts of possession, and then 2 counts of paraphernalia. It was like a crazy illegal search. I got lucky, and I only did like 6 months on the stuff. And then I got out. And then it was like I stayed sober for 3 months, and then I just do the same thing. Relapse after relapse after relapse after treatment. I got put on probation then. That's when I got put on probation, was 2014. And ever since then, I've been on paper.
How many treatment centers have you been to?
I'd say 6 or 7. And some of the ones I've been to them multiple times. I'd say 13 rounds of treatment.
13 rounds of treatment, sometimes would you stay for longer than a week?
Sometimes, 2 weeks, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year, and I felt like I was like becoming a professional about it.
But there is something to that. I mean, I was in treatment places with people who'd been there for, 13 different treatment centers, and they knew the game. They knew how to talk to the doctors. They knew how to extend it. And
right.
This is what they do. They go, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to go back out, then I'm going to do this, until one guy goes, I was sitting there, and I think I've told this story on the podcast before. We're in a group meeting, and the dad goes to the son, hey, I just need you to know that this is our last one. And the kid was like, Dad, it's really not the last one until I'm done. And the dad's sharp now, because he's been through 13 of them, goes, no, I get that. I just need you to know that we are done. We're completely exhausted our savings. Your mother's working again, and we are done. So it doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means financially we're done. We're tapped out.
Right.
Because we're not going to do this anymore. And he was setting up boundaries for him and his wife. And I get that.
Did that seem harsh or unfatherly to you when you heard that, or did it make sense right away?
It made sense to me right away. Yeah, I mean, because
I could see how that might seem a little bit like, whoa.
Well, but it was the fact that he goes, well, no, I'm not done until we're done. And Dad's like, no, I get that. I've been in all these classes with you, and we're going to support you and do what we can, but financially, we're tapped out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no more coming from this stone. You can squeeze it all you want, but it's done.
Yeah.
It was that conversation a year ago that I had with my mom that got me into going to sober living.
Same honestly. Type of conversation.
Oh, yeah. I remember getting out. My dad picked me up from jail, and he was text my mom, and he was like, "Oh, I picked up our son. He's safe, good." And she's like, "Here we go again." That was her reply. "Here we go again."
So on this podcast, sometimes we share somebody's rock bottom. What did your rock bottom look like?
My rock bottom was 2018, and that's when I was locked up during the birth of my daughter. And my daughter was born in prison. Her mom was in prison when she was pregnant with her. And that for me, like having that phone call in jail with my mom saying that I was a dad and I was sitting in a cell was like the worst feeling ever.
So you were in jail and your girlfriend was in jail and she gave birth while in jail.
She spent all 9 months in there while she was pregnant. I didn't get to see her belly. Like I didn't get to watch my baby girl. I didn't get to watch my baby be born, and that was rock bottom for me.
What did that do to you? Tell us how that made you feel.
That destroyed me, man. Like not being there for the most like precious thing of life, and especially not being able to like be a part of it or share it while it's happening like that. I was good for like the first 6 months she was locked up. And then just like that pressure and that anxiety and like not being there, it threw me off. And I started using after like 6 months of her being locked up again. And that's like what sent me into that spiral. I was like, I'm not going to be able to watch my baby be born.
So you were on the outside while she was on the inside.
Yeah.
You were good for about 6 months, and the pressure got to you.
Yeah.
And you decided, let's give this a shot again.
Yep. Like after, like you're saying, it's like after everything I learned from all the treatments.
Yeah.
It was like I knew it, but I just didn't apply it. Like I just didn't care at the time to apply it. I had all the information. I just wasn't doing anything with it.
So then while she's locked up, you start heroin again, and then you find yourself incarcerated.
Yep. And I remember getting that phone call on October 1st. Well, I made the phone call, but they had called the jail, and said, tell Cameron he needs to call his mom. So I called my mom, And she was like, your daughter was just born. And it just like, as much as it was an amazing feeling, it was like the worst feeling in the world also. So it's like, I'm sitting on a jail phone right now, and my little girl's sitting in a hospital, and I'm not there. Like,
yeah. Well, I can't imagine. I mean, can you imagine Casey not being able to be there?
I'm actually trying to wrap my brain around it, and I know what you're feeling. I mean, it's like, it's probably one of the most proudest you've ever been, and probably the most scared and lonely you've ever been, all in the same sentence.
Definitely. Like, just that first week after that, just like waiting for those pictures, it was just like the worst anxiety and like the greatest joy like I've ever felt. It was like that yin yang, and like when I got those pictures, those first pictures of her, it was just like, it was a relief almost. Just like, okay, I know she's home. I know she's safe. Like, this sucks. Like, I need to get my stuff together. Like, what kind of dad am I sitting in jail right now while my little girl's out there and she needs me?
So when you get out, do you get your stuff together?
So I got out and I had my stuff together. I got out 3 months before her mom did. So like, I had a lot of time with her by myself. She was still with family, just because I wasn't in a position to have her. Like, I just barely got out of lockup. And so I had like a good support system, and it went really good until her mom got out, honestly. And me and her were just toxic together. And that's what really screwed me up, was like when she got out and she wanted to start using, like she'd been locked up for years. So like, she wants to get out and get high. She's not thinking about this other stuff, And so we used once. My mom asked me, she's like, did you relapse? And I was like, yeah, I did. And she was like, all right, so take Harper back over there and you can not have any consequences, or I can call your PO and have you locked up again. So I was like, all right, like I'll get my stuff together before like I have her. And 2 days later, I have a DCFS agent show up at my house, and my mom had opened up a case on me. So it was like, I felt like it was kind of like a stab in the back almost. Because it was like, out of all people, like all the people, like my mom especially, but it's like the woman that put me in so many like crappy situations is like, out of anybody, like, maybe we should have been taken away as kids, like that was scarring for us. Like, why are you so protective of her now, but you weren't protective of us? Like, like that,
Did you ask her?
I haven't. Like, and that's, over the last 2.5 years, I was dealing with DCFS. Like, that's probably been like my hardest thing to get over, is like that resentment.
So currently, do you have custody of your daughter?
No, I don't. I actually lost my custody battle. Her mom signed her rights away. I went to trial by myself, and I'd been clean for a year, and they still took my daughter, said I was an unfit parent. They terminated my rights. Now her mom's family's adopting her, and yeah, like I haven't seen her in months. I found out on Father's Day that they terminated my rights. So it was like a rough situation.
You found out that on Father's Day?
Yeah.
Wow.
But the fact that you went through all that hard stuff and didn't pick up a needle, do you understand what a huge victory that is for you and your recovery?
It blows my mind every day. Like, I never thought I'd get to
that's
a point.
solid test of your recovery.
Yeah. And it all goes towards like how I got clean this time, going to sober living, like having the opportunity to get a scholarship to go there, and just like fixing myself.
Tell the listeners how is sober living different than like a treatment center?
Oh, it saved my life. If I didn't go to sober living when I first got out and just jump right into it, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Dr. Matt, a lot of times people will go to a treatment center and get their 30 to 45 days, whatever it is, and come back out, and then they're put back in the exact same situation that put them there. And so
the environment hasn't changed just because they've been away from it.
And the addict now thinks that they've got the tools to deal with the stress and all that other stuff. They're living in what they call the pink cloud because everything was taken care of, and they come out and then they're confronted with real life issues.
That happens in mental health hospitals as well. We call it recidivism, right?
Yeah.
You just bounce right back.
So the benefit of a sober living, whether it's a 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, year program, is that it gives you chance to utilize those skills and baby step your way back into society.
It's like a transition so that you can stay clean and sober while you're starting to do life again, right?
But they do some things that hold you accountable, like UAs. They make you go to a certain amount of meetings a week. You've got to check in with people, and you've got that process group with living with peers who aren't going to let you pull some of your crap. You know what I mean? That understand, that have been there, that will go, this doesn't sound right. What's going on? And so they keep you in check. And so
peer groups are pretty intense. They'll hold you accountable, right?
Yeah, and it's the little things, the routines. Like you got chores, like you got to make sure stuff's done, your bed's made, all this stuff.
So where did you go to treatment this last time?
So this time I went to I Am Recovery, and it's in Lehigh, and it's an amazing program. It's different than any other program I've ever went to.
How many days you do?
I did almost 7 months there.
Wow.
What did you connect with? You said I Am Recovery is different than other programs.
And you've been to a lot.
Yeah. So you can speak with authority about different programs. So what about that program did you connect with?
Honestly, they do so much work to find the root cause of your addictions, where they stem from, where they lie from, and it's just they focus so much more on making sure you're mentally all right.
So really a lot of psychotherapy, trying to understand your past, influences, triggers.
Yeah, during my therapy sessions there, it was almost every session I had, it was I'd get to a point where it's dude, I didn't even realize that.
Right. Self-awareness starts to come.
This is why I've been doing this. This is what it stemmed from. I didn't even think that. I thought it was from this,
I love that. Did you see the look on his face when he was talking about that? That's what you want to see as a therapist. That's genuine,
that's an
aha moment.
It really is.
That insight. Nothing can motivate change better than personal insight.
Right.
So you did I Am Recovery, 7 months, you said.
Yep, and I did 6 months in their sober living. From the opportunity that I got from Susan Peterson.
And we're going to talk to her in a bonus episode coming up. But what did you find in sober living that you didn't have in treatment?
It was that stability, man. Being around all your brothers, just that family vibe, everybody, they're going to hold you accountable, but they also have your back, you know what I mean?
It's supportive.
Yeah, and it just becomes such a tight-knit group. There's probably not many people I don't talk to from the house anymore,
It's a connection.
I still stay connected.
Well, think about the difference. You said, you've been down in St. George when you were a teenager, come back up and reconnect with old friends, and those friends were doing heroin and you ended up doing heroin.
Yep.
Versus making connections with other people that have the same goals and values and pushing each other for good. And those guys have helped you stay sober, and I am sure you've helped them as well.
I don't know who said this, but it's some rich, famous guy. And he goes, you want to see your future? Show me your friends.
I've heard that quote before. I don't know who it's by, but it's very true, isn't it?
It really is.
That's pretty real.
You know what I mean? You surround yourself by what you want to be and, what you need. And a good person will bring you up and not hold you down.
Right.
And
I've gotten to that point now where it's if you're not benefiting my life, why, we can still be acquaintances, but really, if you're not improving my life, or you're not there for me, then what's the point of you being it? It's just too much energy that both of us are wasting.
There are a lot of really nice people out there that are doing things that kind of pull you down if you spend too much time with them, right? And there are a lot of really nice people out there that'll lift you up, and you're smart to try to surround yourself with people that'll lift you up, because my experience is it puts you in a position then to lift others as well. Have you noticed that in your 13 months of sobriety?
Oh, dude, it motivates me so much. And especially with my girlfriend, she just always reassures me of how good I'm doing. And it's just my dad does too. And it motivates me so much. And I'm just okay, they see I'm doing good. This feels good, having people
positive
give me a pat on the
feedback.
back, instead of worrying about a phone call that I might not be alive anymore.
Cameron, what does sobriety look like for you now?
Sobriety looks like surrounding myself with all the people in my life that are positive. I don't have any negative people in my life right now, and I'm going to stay that way. It looks like making a living for myself, for my family, and mostly just making sure I'm okay so I can do all that. Be the best father I can be the best boyfriend or husband in the future, best son. And I know I deserve it, and I know my family deserves it. And that's what sobriety is for me, is having that trust back with my family too.
I love it. Dr. Matt? What are your thoughts on today's podcast?
It's not an original thought here, but it's a powerful one, and that is the opposite of addiction is
connection.
And you're a great example of that. I love sober living programs because they really do provide the opportunity for somebody who's serious about being sober to extend that into practice and practice and practice, right, so that you can start to live a healthy, sober life. So
actually heal.
Yeah, and actually heal. And what I love about the healing you've done, from my point of view, is the psychotherapy piece. I mean, if we could all spend time, I mean, why do I meditate? Why do people meditate? It isn't just about, working out your brain, but it's also reconnecting with yourself. A lot of aha moments happen during psychotherapy, during meditation, a lot of self-awareness. And the more self-aware we are, the better we can be. So good on you. Appreciate you coming in. I know there's some buddies out there listening today that have really connected with your story.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
And the thing I go back to, Dr. Matt, and you know how my brain works, I don't have a way to articulate it, but I know, thinking of Cameron at the age 12, trying meth for the first time and not understanding the contract or the consequences of doing that.
Right.
And I want to figure out a way to talk to our kids, because when we were kids, it was DARE, and stuff like that. And I still know they got programs.
The DARE
like
program.
Yeah. But
MAD.
Yeah, but I don't think that young mind can comprehend where this is going to go.
Well, part of that is, abstract reasoning is something that we develop as we go through puberty. And part of that is time and seeing, making connections. If I do this, it'll lead to that, it'll lead to that. But at that age, we're so young that we don't really have a template for how bad things can be.
Yeah.
We really don't have experience for that. So a lot of it does have to do with, a lot of your, I would say, theme today is family, for better or for worse. And when family's working well, it's great, isn't it? And I include friends in that. Family can be our friends as well. And so back to your point,
know your kids' friends. Talk openly about these things.
Even if you can't imagine your son or daughter would ever get involved in this, they can. And you should talk to them about it, see what their opinions and thoughts are. Ask them which of their friends are smoking weed. If your kid's 10 years old, he or she has friends smoking weed. 10 years old. That's happening right now.
Crazy.
And so talk to them about it. Demonstrate a non-judgmental conversation. And that right there will hold kids, because they can't really imagine the outcomes, but you can. And if you're connected and close with them, that might be enough to keep them away from that sort of thing.
And just remember, addiction doesn't discriminate.
No,
it doesn't care what job you have, what religion you are, how much money you have, where you live. It doesn't matter. If it can get you, it will get you.
Yep.
Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast today. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget that Project Recovery is brought to you by our friends at KnowYourScript.org. And Project Recovery is a KSL podcast.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.
It's the story of an American held in a dark Venezuelan prison.
Then all of a sudden they all kind of lined up. They pointed their guns at me. And this is the point where I thought, I'm going to die today.
I'm Becky Bruce. I spent a year working on Hope in Darkness, which now has more than 2 million downloads. Find it on kslpodcast.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.